On this episode of Bedtime Comics with a Redneck, we will be doing part one of the review for the Avengers Epic Collection, Volume 22, Operation Galactic Storm. See, it's Volume 22 in the set. It collects Avengers 345 to 347. Avengers West Coast 80 to 82, Quasar 32 to 34, Wonder Man 7 to 9, Iron Man 278 and 279, Thor 445 446, Captain America 401, and material from Captain America 398 to 400. So it's a pretty big book, which Marvel Epics are usually anywhere from 400 and some to 500 pages. It's about two epics usually make one omni. I'm kind of new to the epic line, kind of. I'm more of an omni person, but I'm going to try to lean towards the epics just because the omnis they're so big that it takes me forever to get done with one. And at least with the epics, I feel like I'm accomplishing a little something, but I hate downgrading the size. I like having my stuff in the biggest format I can get it in, but we'll see. So I am not a huge fan of the old Avengers stuff like this. I never really read any of it. I won't say I'm not a fan of it. I'll just say I haven't really read any of it. Uh, I grew up on Spider-Man, X-Men, and it took me for it took me 2 or 3 years after reading comics to even start picking up Batman and Superman. It was always just Spider-Man and X-Men. So Avengers, the only time I read anything Avengers was like if it tied in with like the Onslaught storyline where you had a couple of stories of Avengers in there, like something like that. So, of course, I've read a lot of the newer Avengers stuff. Basically, everything from Avengers Disassembled that led into New Avengers and up, I'm familiar with to a degree. Some of it I stuck with, some of it I didn't. So, but this stuff is brand new stuff to me, basically. So, this entire epic is basically one big giant story. Uh, as it states right there, Operation Galactic Storm. It's like a 19 part story, and it's got one issue of like an epilogue. This is a review video of the first 6 issues, the first 6 parts of this story. It is such a big story that I didn't want to wait until I read it all because I'm a slow reader because I got a lot of other stuff I mess with during the day. So I wanted to go ahead and make a video to cover these 6 because if I wait till I finish reading the book, I'll end up forgetting a bunch of stuff or I'll rush it. So we open it with issue of Captain America, and this made me kind of happy to see because this is War Star, and I read the old Claremont X-Men, and that's where Warstar and Imperial Guard and all that, the Shi'ar is all. That's their focus. That's where they come from. So when I seen you had the Avengers fighting the Imperial Guard in here, yeah, I mean, yeah, this went home with me as soon as I seen that. Uh, this is the first time the Avengers have gone up against the Shi'ar, but you've got Captain America fighting Warstar, and it starts with Rick Jones having a dream of a big bomb or something blowing up a city, and Captain America is kind of the only one left standing. And him and Cap have, from what I understand from reading this, they had some kind of fallout a long time ago, and Rick goes to him and they agree to meet. And when they agree to meet, Warstar attacks. He's looking for Rick Jones, and Captain America has a battle with Warstar. I'm happy with the battle. I feel like it was decently done. Uh, you end up getting into issue 2. Like I said, I'm not going to get very deep into these. I do want you to experience these on your own, but I will give you an idea of what's going on. Issue 2, Captain America is calling in the other Avengers. Uh, they end up running into a Kree sentry, which, if you don't know them, I don't know a lot about them either, but I know they're super powerful. Uh, they run into the Imperial Guard at the same time. It's a, it's got a lot of action in here. I mean, so apparently the Shi'ar and the Kree are going to war with each other, and they're using the Earth's sun as a fuel source to power their gateways, wormholes, to get back and forth. And every time they open a wormhole, it's taking energy from the sun. So the Avengers have to get involved in this, because if they don't, they're just going to use the sun up, and it'd be the end of all life in our solar system. But the Kree end up running off, or the Shi'ar. Corsair goes after them, leads into issue 3, and Corsair ends up going to battle with a guy, I can't remember what his name is. But anyway, he runs into Captain Atlas and Dr. Minerva. They're 2 Kree warriors. They're trying to raid Captain Marvel's tomb. And Corsair and Captain Marvel, before Captain Marvel died, they were buddies. They're after the quantum bands, I guess is what it is. And they get attacked by the Shi'ar there, Imperial Guard. And it's kind of interesting what happens, because, like I said, I don't know the history with all this. But apparently, when Captain Marvel would cling his quantum bands together, he would switch places with Rick Jones. So when this Kree warrior gets a hold of these quantum bands, he smacks them together, and it brings Rick Jones up into outer space, and the Kree warrior is left on Earth in his place where he was being watched over by Wonder Man. So this leads into Wonder Man fighting this Captain Atlas, I think his name is. And it makes for a fun battle because anytime the Captain Atlas or whatever gets in trouble, he'll cling his bands together and it'll swap in Rick Jones. So Wonder Man can't just go full blunt and attack because they're constantly clinging him in and out. So I'll let you figure out how he gets around that yourself. But that was a very interesting and fun little story. And I don't like Wonder Man, but that was a nice story. Then you get into issue 5, and this is yet again where I just don't know the history of the Avengers at this time period. Thor, this is not the Thor that you know. This is not the Thor I know. This is a different guy. I don't know who he is, but he's not Thor. Like, he is Thor, but he's not the Thor everybody knows. But he uses the Thor powers, the hammer and stuff. So this is something I don't know nothing about him. But the Avengers have all split themselves into separate teams. You got a team going after the Kree, you got a team going after the Shi'ar, and you got a team left on Earth. Uh, they're all trying to get peace to settle down between everybody. Uh, Hawkeye gets mad because he gets benched to the Earth team because Cap claims he ain't got enough raw power. So Hank Pym hooks him up with the stuff to make him Giant Man again, or Goliath, I guess he calls himself. He goes back to being Goliath again. Of course, we have, when you're messing with the Shi'ar, of course you have Lilandra and what's her name? Deathbird. I don't know why I keep wanting to call her Lady Deathstrike. That's Wolverine, the villain. But yeah, Deathbird, which is, she's just as terrible as Lady Deathstrike. You got the Iron Man issue, which gets us into issue 6. So this issue is basically, you had last issue dealt with the Avengers, basically with the Shi'ar and deciding to split up into teams. This issue is kind of more focused on the Avengers team that is going to deal with the Kree, I think. Yep, the Kree Empire. I mean, you've got a pretty good roster with Iron Man and Captain America and Goliath and Cersei and the Black Knight. I mean, you've got a powerhouse team right there. Of course, Iron Man goes off on his own, wants to do everything his own way. He ends up having to fight this dude named Shatterax. I don't know anything about him. If you know anything about it, put it in the comments. If you know anything about this Thor, put it in the comments. But Iron Man gets his butt kicked and ends up surrendering. And as a result, the rest of the Avengers have to surrender. And that's kind of where the issues end, is the Kree Avengers team has been captured. Uh, Next issue, obviously, is a big one that I'm waiting to read. You have this Thor taking on Gladiator, and if you know anything about Gladiator, this is a big deal because Gladiator is like Superman times 36. So I mean, I'm having a good time reading this, and it's a good point for me to start Avengers, even though there's a lot I don't know. It is a good story for me to start with because I do have that history with the Imperial Guard, and I do like seeing how the Avengers are going to deal with it as opposed to the X-Men. So it was a nice little thing to pull me in. But anyway, that's just 6 issues I've read. There will be a part 2 coming. If you are interested in this, I bought it at Ollie's about a month ago for like $10. If you have a local Ollie's, check it out. I went to Ollie's today and they had sold out of most all their other stuff, but I think they had one copy of this and they had one copy of Avengers Taking Aim Epic. So now's a good time to pick it up. Uh, I will be making a part 2 in the next couple of days, so stay tuned for that.